Well, absolutely. And one of those stops in between the beginning and end of Mr. Regal was Japan. And that's what we're going to talk
Yep.
about this week. We talked about it before, but we just got to Japan because you wanted to set some backstory
Yeah,
to
there was a lot of backstory to it all.
first time you saw Japanese wrestlers. I'm like, were you aware of Tiger Mask? You're like, you mean Sammy Lee, who I saw, like, and I, a lot of us had no idea of the amount of crossover that took place, or even
Yeah.
that these
Yeah,
excursions, these excursions that we see a Takeshita do. Now we're capping it in the 70s with people
Yep.
like Sammy Lee.
Do you know I forgot somebody?
Who's that?
I forgot a major player who came again. It was before my time in the wrestling, but a major player who came either right at the end. I'm not sure if there was a crossover. I can't remember. I seem to give a shout out every week to Hey, look at me. A shout out. That's an American thing, isn't it? I'm gonna have to stop that. I don't like that. I'm gonna mention John Lister and Tony Ershaw because they're on Twitter and they are there might be more people, but they're the two people that keep the strength of the business as far as actual official days and dates. I just know wrestler stories and my time in it, and it's sometimes the timelines are off, and that they keep all the official things. So thank you, fellas, because if you follow them on Twitter, there's a lot of great British history and post. The great thing is when they put posters up. Britain had the most fantastic wrestling posters in all the way up through the early 90s. And they put stuff on there all the time, and matches and history pieces and whatever else. There's another lad from New Zealand, and I apologize. I think it's Ost is
Yeah, he puts up the posters, right? There's
a lot of them put up the posters, but they all put up stuff.
I love
he's from Britain, but he moved to New Zealand. I think. I hope. Sorry, again, I'm totally get. Apologize if I'm not getting this right, but I think that's what his deal is. But Britain had the most wonderful posters, and I'm on lots of posters, and it's just nice to and to see these every day. Somebody puts something up on Twitter. I just look at it a few times a week and then see all their stuff. I skip a lot of, I use it as to keep in touch with certain friends and Japan being one of them, where we can DM each other and it's all translated and all that. I haven't got to worry about anything else. And then to follow certain people who put GIFs on there, and a lot of them put old British and European and Japanese stuff, so I can go back and look. But the people I mentioned before, they put on the posters and the history, and they do a fantastic job. And thanks, fellas, for doing that, because it would be lost. Because there's us wrestlers telling our thoughts, but we were in the middle of wrestling. We didn't have time to take down notes and know exactly what the 8 days of what, and because it becomes another day on the job. If you're working 20 odd days a month, yeah, that's Chris Jericho. I mentioned on before, did the very incredibly smart thing that any young wrestlers listen should all do. Every single day that you work, make a note of where you've been and what's happened, because one day you'll wish you had, and I wished I had, and I didn't.
And Jericho he turned that into money.
Into a book, and then it's great that it. And you should. I've been telling people that
smart,
because since I met him, like he told me that, and I've been telling people, anybody who, whenever I end up with them, write down everything you do, because there's so much that I've done. I have to have other people remind me of, and there's things in Japan that there's a thing showed up recently. We'll end up talking about that just. It just lost to memory. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I did that. Until these matches turn up on somebody bring, because you don't know. So thanks, fellas, for putting all these wonderful posters up,
and the clips,
and because without that, we'd all Well, I wouldn't, not all, but I would be lost. So thanks.
And that's as much a talent as anything.
And some people can do both, and that's
Sweet.
what it is. So that's really what wrestling is. Things just evolved. So when you ask me, I know this has been a long answer,
Oh,
but
it's great though.
when you ask me about why it was just things was simpler then, or there was communication, but also there's another thing that we don't talk about much on this show. There was communication between wrestlers, but nobody went out and spilled the guts to everybody and told them all about it. It was kept in house. So not every fan knew what the ins and outs were, or think they knew what the ins and outs were. And most wrestlers now, because they come from this time, don't know what the real ins and outs used to be. They have no concept because they didn't live in that world. They didn't know that if you messed up something, you would get smashed to pieces and you wouldn't be in this job anymore. It's a very different world we're in.
For sure. For sure. And one of our magic tricks at the Gentleman Villain William Regal podcast is
see, look at you, I've even got you flustered.